Today's subject, today we're going to be looking at drawing raptors. Raptors in flight. And we're going to start kind of with more of a theoretical model. And we're going to be building on this in the next Nature Journal workshop that I teach. So we're going to have two in a row. Well, there's two. There's today's workshop. Then we're going to have the experience with Point Blue. And then we're going to have the workshop after that will also be on drawing raptors in flight. So we're going to get into some real nuances of drawing these birds in flight that I think you will find help you be able to see, like, oh, there's a big one going over, and have a sketch that looks so much more like what you're seeing. So understanding some structure really helps. So we're going to look at a little bit of bird anatomy. The other thing that really makes a big difference on this is understanding some of the changes in angles with foreshorten, with perspective. As you're looking at a bird from different angles, as you change your angle, your perspective on it, the way you see this critter will change. So we're going to get into the basics of that in this class. And the one after that, we're really going to go off the deep end. I need to grab my sketchbook from over there.
For those of you who haven't printed it already, I've pasted the link to the PDF that Jack is going to be using today, so you can print that out and cut out your own little bird models.
Yep, so we're going to be looking at some bird models. So you can print out this little raptor. And then what we'll be doing is we'll be taking that little raptor here from the print out cutout. We'll be cutting that out and turning that into a little in-flight model. And we'll be exploring all sorts of aspects of the anatomy by looking at this little thing, actually of the perspective. So if it's possible to print one of these out, do that. If not, I'm going to show you how to make your own sort of more simple version that will also do a phenomenal job of helping you understand the foreshortening and angles on it. All right. So perhaps that would be a good thing to, let's start with a little bit of wing anatomy. I'm going to jump over to my desktop. And I'm going to show you we're going to make a diagram of the wing of a bird. And as we do this, I want to encourage folks to, on your notes, follow along with us. If you just watch, you're going to find that our brains really forget a lot of information. And instead, if you are kind of keeping sketch notes as we go, then our brains will be able to record a lot more. So if I look at a bird in flight that's flying around, on the wing, I have these long feathers at the tip of the wing. And then there's a big the feathers kind of go out flat, taper a little bit, and then there is this sort of fingered zone. So you see this in a lot of birds of prey. The wingtip feathers, each one is sort of shaped like this, where there is this narrowing on both sides, so that there is, and I'll make this a little bit darker,
So very often there's more melanin at the tip of the wing. The melanin is actually a strengthening pigment. So you often find more of that at the tip of the wing. So because these wingtip ones get skinny, you get this fingering and different degrees of fingering in different birds. Vultures and things are super fingery. But so we've got the fingery section and then this sort of long flat part. Let's kind of analyze what's happening with the wing there. If we do an X-ray into the bird, it has a shoulder that is somewhere in here. It has a wrist, sorry, shoulder, an elbow down in here, and a wrist up in here. So they have, just like you do, they have a shoulder, an elbow. Here's their little bird forearm. Just like you, there are two bones here. And it goes to their wrist here. And then they have a little hand bone that attaches to that. Now, the flight feathers are attached to the hand and the forearm. So basically out here, I'm going to draw a triangle. I'm going to draw a line straight back from the wrist and out along the hand and make that into a triangle.
Jack, could you slide your paper over just a little bit?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
It takes a village. And then here on the forearm, I'm going to come down and make a box here. So I'm going to make a box that is going to connect into this triangle. The feathers of the forearm are called the secondary feathers, and these come straight back. They attach on the back side of the ulna here, and they come straight back. Those are called the secondaries. Not sure if I spelled that right. And then on the hand here, there's a set of feathers that are attached along the hand bone, and those ones fan out. And as we come this way, they're kind of, by the time they get down to where the secondaries are, they're basically coming in at a very similar angle to the secondaries. But the closer we get to the tip, the more we see that these are actually in a fan. And these are called the primaries. So I've got my primaries and my secondaries. Usually what you're seeing is the first few primaries have this constriction on them. Not all of them. So these ones down here don't have that constriction, just these ones out here at the tip. So what you'll see out here is pointy, skinny, pointy, skinny, pointy, skinny, getting a little bit less, pointy, skinny, and then a big section that will be kind of tapering in there. So usually the first one in here is a little bit shorter. So they'll get shorter and then longer, and then they'll kind of come into the side here. So people, when they're often drawing primary feathers, the bird wing, let me show you kind of a couple of mistakes that people do. So they'll have, you know, here is the body of the hawk, and it's flying along. And so what we'll do is sort of one mistake is that. So you see what is going on here is this is a fan that is attached in here. So as if you just took the primaries and put that on the side of the bird. So we're going to make that a little bit better by first sticking on a block of secondaries. And then I'm going to put on my triangle of primaries. And so then the second mistake, if people kind of get this idea that, oh, I want to have my secondaries in there. So by the way, the bird's body then is going to be tucked in here. So I don't want to draw my primaries in like this. I don't want to go, all right, these are fanning. So what I'm going to do is just draw my fan like this. See what I did wrong there is that I am showing that fingering on all of those primaries, not just those few ones out there at the tip. So a better way of thinking about that is if these are my secondaries. How about that, Melinda? I remembered to move my paper. All right. So if these are fanning, but I'm only going to be fingering them out here at the very tip. So I'm going to go small, skinny, skinny, skinny. And these are, I'm thinking of these as pointing in here towards the wing. And then there's going to be a section where it's still primaries, but I'm not showing that fingering in them. Another thing that you're going to see is because there is this elbow in here, sometimes this leading edge of the wing, you're going to see a little bit of a dip in it. So here is a kind of quick but very accurate system for thinking about how to draw your wing. I'm going to draw myself a rectangle for my secondaries. I'm going to give myself my triangle for my primaries.
Or can you shift it over just a bit?
Whoop. In this area here, I can show just a little bit of a dip. I'll put a little bit of dip in there. And then on the primaries, as I start to come in there, all my primaries are going to be pointing towards where that X is. But I'm only going to show the fingering on the first few. And I'm going to go small, bigger. See how this is pointing towards that? See how this is pointing towards that? So these feathers here are pointing in towards that point. And then, but I'm not going to continue that fingering all the way down. That is an awesome, quick raptor wing. The part of the raptor wing right up in here where all these feathers come together is going to be covered up by sets of small feathers called covert feathers, and they're going to be blocking this whole area in here. So you're not going to see all those feathers coming in all the way to the tip. Similarly, on the underside, where we're going down to our elbow, which is going to be down somewhere about in here, that whole part of, well, actually, first of all, let's put in our armpit feathers. So I'm going to put in an area right in here of the axillary feathers, which are long armpit feathers. So right when I get to the body, that's where my axillary feathers are going to kind of tuck in that area. And then this area here is going to be covered up by more rows of small feathers. These are called covert feathers. The ones on the primaries are primary coverts. The ones in here are called secondary coverts. And so these primaries are coming in here. What I'm going to recommend that you not do The intuitive thing to do is to know that these are all feathers. And so what you want to do is people will get in and they will draw the edges of all the feathers. See what I'm doing? I'm drawing in, here are the edges of these feathers. Because I know that these are all these feathers coming in here. So I'm drawing the structures that I know that are there. But when you really look at the underside of the bird, the edges of the individual feathers will be hard to see. You know that they're there, but they're going to be hard to see. So rather than draw in this thing that I don't really see, a better approach is to draw the patterns of lights and darks that I see. And I'm going to show you a few kind of very common patterns. The first is, as I mentioned here, the tips of a lot of these feathers are darker. So the melanin pigment in those feathers makes them darker. So what I'm going to do is very often these feathers, especially at the tips, it's got this strengthening pigment in them. So I'm going to make those feathers darker. And then that darkness is going to continue along this whole edge along all of those tips. So on many raptors, you'll see this sort of dark edge to the wing. On some raptors, you'll see that the tips of these feathers right in here, these covert feathers on the primaries, they have a little dark bar. And sometimes you'll get a rather sort of fainter little dark bar coming down this way. Red-tailed hawks, for instance, will have a very kind of clear comma right there in the wing. So there's that little comma in the wing. The other thing that red-tailed hawks have, since here in North America, we see lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of red-tailed hawks. If you see right in here, this area is really dark. There's a little dark bar in there. You go, oh, look at the red-tailed hawk. Even if it doesn't have a red tail, call it a red-tailed hawk. This is the patagium, the patagial mark. It's this little inner bar of dark on the red tail thing. It's a red tail thing. And then a lot of raptors will have on the individual feather they'll have these little bars that will go across the feather. Like that. So if they've got that, then what you're going to see is those little bars will line up to make these rows right there in the primary feathers. So you see how I'm arcing those around? And instead of drawing these as a heavy line like this, instead of drawing lines like that, I want to suggest that these are made up of separate little feathers. So that's why I am kind of going, I'm making these sort of start and so it's going to be sort of a broken line of those. And then across here, it's the same thing. So those then are going to come across like that. So that's a very common pattern that you see on the undersides of raptor wings. Sometimes you think of these as all these little rows of feathers here. So you'll find sometimes these feathers in here, you'll have rows of dark feathers as well. That gives you a little bit of the sort of patterns to look out for. One other thing I want to point out is that on the wings of a lot of raptors, when you look up at them, there will be what we call windows in the wings. So for instance, a red-shouldered hawk will often, right out here in the wing, there will be this sort of pale window. And so as you look up at the wing, we're going to give this oil just a little bit of tone. It looks like you can sort of see this sort of crescent of light kind of coming through that part of the wing. So the way you're going to draw that is just by adding a little bit of tone on the other part of the wing and leaving that window open. Now, let's take a look at, oh, and then for the tail, so here's the underside of my bird, its undertail coverts. The raptor's talons, oh, I caught myself. The raptor's talons are going to have its little raptor feet kind of tucked up. And you'll see them hanging down on the underside of its body. And then the tail, imagine it fanning out. If here's the base of the wings, imagine the tail fanning out from some point in here. So the tail can be nice and broad. When you're looking at it from the underside, what you're seeing is these tail feathers here are on the outside, and the rest of the tail feathers are kind of lining up inside of that. Again, the edges of individual feathers don't really show up in nature. So if I draw this, I'm drawing
a little bit, Jack. Thank you.
So if I draw this all in, then I'm drawing what I know should be there. There are these feathers. On the other hand, if I'm really looking at the patterns of lights and darks that I see with the bird, I may see a very different thing. I may see that there's a dark bar with sort of subsequent lighter, smaller dark bars coming across that. Or that it has white tips on the edges of those feathers. So if there's white tips on those feathers, what I'll do is I'll draw sort of the edge of the tail you draw in your dark zone. You're then just leaving those white tips. And it's okay to put in just there's a hint of like, yeah, these are some feathers that are kind of coming in like that. But if I really overemphasize this sort of a thing, it's going to look more like a diagram of a bird wing than the bird that is really passing over your head. So don't overdo the feather edges. They will be subtle if seen at all. My general visual plan for drawing the raptor in flight, I'm going to back up here, then is this. All right, here's the central axis of its body, and its wings are coming across it like that. I'm going to draw the whole bird now. It's got a little body in here. Little snossage of a body. This part here is going to be a head. And heads look bigger or smaller on different birds. You'll see, for instance, on a bald eagle, it'll look really, really heady. They look like they've got a lot of head. Other birds, buteos and things, their head may feel a little bit more compact. So the tail is going to fan out from this spot. That same tail doesn't have to be fanned. It can go to be closed up as well. For my wing on the top, I'm going to think of, there's my zone of the secondary feathers, zone of the secondary feathers, zone of the primary feathers, zone of my primary feathers. My primary feathers, rather than, if I want to be a little bit more sophisticated, I'm not going to think of it as a triangle coming to this corner here. I'm going to think of it as a triangle coming to a point somewhere in here. You see that? So I'm going to come up and back. And then if I'm drawing my feather edges in, there we go. Right here on the bird's shoulder is a big shoulder pad, like a football player. So the birds have these big shoulder pads, these pads of feathers that attach above their scapula bone or their shoulder blade bone. They're called the scapular feathers.
Just to clarify, now we're switching views and we're looking down on the bird instead of looking from underneath.
Oh, thank you so much for pointing that out. Yes, we are now looking at a bird from the top. On the underside, we've got the axillary feathers, those armpit feathers. And now I'm looking down on the top of a bird. Thank you for clarifying. Covert feathers, covert feathers. So when I see a bird flying overhead, what I want to do is I'm going to be looking at first just sort of general proportions. Let's say it's an eagle, and eagles are really long-winged, right? I'm going to like, wow, you have a really long head, right? And so I really want to get the sense that you've got a super long wing. So this secondaries, you've got a lot of secondaries, buddy, all right? And out there. So then I'm going to get that bird right. So this gives me a fairly good, fast raptor. When I'm out there in the field, I will sometimes really focus on one side of the bird. And then later on, I can copy that over to the other side of the bird. But initially, I'll be working on this side because I'll know that then I can just use that as sort of a mirror image. Something that's also kind of cool about that is when you're looking that carefully at one side of the bird, you may notice irregularities in the wing. For instance, if the bird is molting, raptors, when they molt their feathers, they don't, like a duck, drop all of their primary and secondary feathers at one time and be flightless for a while, because then they'd be a starved eagle. So they drop one feather at a time, and it starts at the tip and it works its way in. And so you may see a raptor flying around like this. And you see that bird a few months later, that notch is going to be further in. That notch is traveling this way. And what's cool is to keep the wings symmetrical, the flight action easy for the bird. When it molts a feather on this side, it typically molts the exact same feather on the other side of the bird. Isn't that cool? So then it doesn't fly in goofy little circles when it flaps. So those are really fun things to look for on your birds of prey. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take this model. This is, okay, all of this is just looking at this bird. You're right underneath it. But we're going to be seeing birds from all sorts of other angles. And that's where your bird model comes in. What I'm going to do, though, before I really play with the bird model, and what I'm going to do is encourage everybody to print out the bird model. Again, it's a free download from my website. You're going to be playing with this and looking at some angles on it. But before we really investigate it, I've made a simplified version of it. And I'm going to put that here on. All right. So if I am looking at my bird straight down, right? Or looking at it straight from the bottom, everything is nice and symmetrical. But, and also notice how it makes a nice letter T, right? So this part here, it's symmetrical with that, just like the letter T. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bird and I'm going to turn it over this way. And I'm going to turn one end up towards you. Now look at this. Here is this direction. And here is this direction. So you see that the T there? Watch the angle of the T as I change angles with the bird. Let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to make it fly down away from us here at an angle. Boom. So I've got this line here, and I'm trying to line that up with a. As I change the angles of this, I'm going to fly it up towards you. Oh, see, this is a good way to see this. Let's see this. So notice here, I want everybody to look at this shape and this shape. Do you see how they're the same shape? 90 degrees and 90 degrees, right, on either side of the head here. Now look at this. Look at this angle here and this angle here. Do you see how this side here is more acute than this one? This is now, right here, an acute angle, and this angle on this side of the head is an obtuse angle. right? Greater than 90 degrees. So what's going on is that the axis of this body, as this bird is turning, those lines are not at 90 degrees. So let's put some bird wing, some bird body into this. A bird that is flying at an angle, either approaching you or going away from you, these wings are going to be at an angle to this direction of travel. We'll call this one the direction of travel. And if this is the back of my tail, the angle on one side is going to be different than the angle on the other. So this negative shape here is going to be different than this negative shape here. Zoom down on that. Oops, I'm going to back up. Let's just actually, this might be a good way of approaching it. Let's just start with, in this view, everything is symmetrical, right? In this view, everything is symmetrical. So I'm seeing the full size of these wings. If I rock my bird, then the apparent length of the wing is getting shorter, right? Now, by the way, in this view that you have you'll notice that we're getting kind of an extreme kind of forced perspective thing. The wing that is closer to you here, you're seeing that as really big and this one far away. When you are drawing hawks in flight, don't do this. This is an artifact of having the camera lens close to the object. So if you're trying to make a drawing of you are a sparrow that is flying right next to a flying hawk, then yes, go ahead. And from that sparrow's perspective, you're seeing this big wing and that other side that is far away from you, you're seeing that as small, big, small. Right? But watch this. Here's the upside down jack. Click. Right. So when this is close to you, right, when I'm close to the camera, you're seeing the side that is close to you as being this extreme foreshortening. But notice how when I just walk to the other side of the room and I hold this up, you are not seeing this really, this side here looks about the same size as that side, right? So as I walk towards you, watch this side grow in proportion to this side, right? So out here at this distance, this side looks the same size as this. But now as I come closer to you, right, you're starting to see, right? And if it's right up in the camera's face, this effect is huge. So when we're drawing raptors, they're way out there. And so this kind of perspective shift is not something that you will see. So just treat it like, treat it as if you're just kind of, how you're going to draw a flat board, or a board that is not. So just ignore that kind of widening thing. You don't have to take into account the distance of one wing to the next. So bring this up, make that perspective just a little bit less in your face. So birds that are either you're looking at its back or its belly coming and coming towards you or flying away from you. Don't always expect this axis to be in the same direction as this. And remember that by just a little bit of tilting of the wings, the apparent length of those wings is going to get shorter. And also expect the angle where the tail meets the body to then be different on either side of the body. I'm now going to switch from this simpler model to this bird. And something that you can do is you can take a small piece of tape if you want. And I want my bird to have a little bit of body width. So I'm going to sort of put this piece of tape, not totally flattening my bird out, just to give it a little bit of breadth like that. And there I go. Now I'm going to clamp on here. Now I look at the belly from underneath, and I'm seeing that symmetry. Let's zoom down. Now I tilt the bird. As I tilt the bird away from you, the length of that wing seems to get shorter and shorter. And also, do you see how this part in here, you really are seeing a big bulby curve sticking out in here? See that big bulby curve right where my finger is? This area of the secondary seems to be bulging. When I look at it like this, the bulge in them is subtle, right? It's all spread out through here. But when I foreshorten it like this, all the curve in that part of the wing gets reduced to a shorter area and becomes more prominent. So here you're really seeing this big bulge out here on this trailing edge of the wing. And again, here, it's subtle. The reason for this is that, let's say I have a wing. Whoop. Go for a new page. So here, well, we're not on the screen at all. Sorry about that, everybody. All right, so here are my primaries and my secondaries. Tip of my primaries here, we're doing something like this. All right, if I foreshorten this wing, all the angles in this get reduced to something that's going to be the same length.
You slide it up just a little bit.
Same length, but shorter. So if my secondaries were not quite half, they're still going to be not quite half here. And I'm going to try to make this the same height. All right, so this one, the point of this wingtip was down in here. So it's still going to be down in there at that point. If there was in the leading edge a slight curve, it's going to come down to this, but now you're going to see it, it's going to look much more angly because this amount of down is still going to be there, but it's now you're seeing it in that space there. And if there was a slight curve here, that slight curve is now spread out or sort of contracted to this. So you're going to see that this subtle amount of curve here, because you are, imagine if you put it into something that was only this wide, right? Then you would be seeing it as like, right? The crookedness, the angles in these will become much more apparent as this wing becomes foreshortened. So if in here I had 1 feather, 2 feathers, 3, 4, and this, I'm going to have 1 feather, 2 feather, 3. The depth of these fingering things is going to be less. Anything that is in this axis is going to be de-emphasized. Anything that is in this axis, you're really going to see dramatically. Let's go back to this. I'm going to take my bird. I'm going to rock it down. Right? We see that when I rock it down, that far one is foreshortened. And also notice that the wings are attaching up on the top of the body. So also what's going on here is that part of the bird's body is blocking your view of the wing on the far side. I can even tilt it a little bit more and that back wing, it disappears. Because it is blocked by the body. So now let's look at this shape here. Notice how we see the curves on the upper edge and the bottom edge really dramatically. Notice that the fingering between those feathers in the primaries is not as extreme. Also, notice that on the far wing, the part where the wing curls back up towards the body is blocked by the belly of the bird. So these are all aspects of this bird foreshortened that I want to notice and to play with. I can add to this if I tilt the bird at an angle like this. Now, the axis of the body and the line along the front edge of the wings are now no longer at right angles to each other. See that? So again, this angle here and this angle here, those are not at right angles to each other. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. But what I want to do is initially, to make this easier for myself, is just to focus on a few little points at a time. So when you're starting to do this, just looking at how does one wing, the wing that is closest to me, how does it change as I go from this to this? And from this to this. Notice that the more that the bird is coming towards you, the straighter that front edge of the wing appears. Here I see it all curvy. Here it's looking straighter. See that? I'm going to suggest that you print out one of these little bird models for yourself and take some time drawing it from different poses and positions. If you have a paper clip and a kneaded eraser, you can make yourself your own very simple stand for holding something like this steady in front of you so that it's not moving. As you look at it, close one eye and copy the shape of that wing. And just get yourself more comfortable with how is this shape going to deform when I tilt it this way and I tilt it this way. So by just messing around with a bunch of studies of the wing, it takes the pressure off having to draw the entire raptor. These are going to be studies that are going to help us kind of get these geometries down into our brain. Another useful thing to do is to, in addition to kind of looking at the shape of that wing deformation, is to make yourself just a simplified little study of what you're doing. I like when I'm drawing these things, make some sketches like this. Here is the axis of the body. And so I'm going to turn this up towards myself for just a second. So I'm looking at my bird and I'm going like this. Here's the axis of my body. So notice I've got one eye closed. I'm going, right, your body is at this angle, your wings are at this angle, right? So I'm closing my eye, I'm air tracing the direction of my bird, air tracing the direction of the front edge of those wings. Now, I put those same marks down onto my paper. Here is the axis of my body. Here is the axis of the front edge of my wings. And rather than think of this as drawing in this perfect hawk, just think of it as kind of blocking in the angles of the paper model. So here's the head, and the paper model has a body that comes down like this. This wing is coming up. And I'm seeing that part of that wing. On the wing that is behind it, most of my secondaries are going to be blocked from my view. Okay, so I'm seeing that I've got secondaries here. And I've got primaries here. Here is my angle of my tail, and the rest of it on my paper model is blocked from my view. And if I want to, I can then get in there and say, like, what is the wing shape that is on top of this one? But you see, I don't want to get in here and like, I'm going to draw an eye and all of these sorts of things. But what I'm trying to do is to get myself to simplify this shape. Use these guidelines to block in the form of this bird. And I can then also look at any deformations in the shape of this wing, and looking at those negative shapes is really helpful with that. What is this one doing? It's coming down straight. So don't expect this wing to have the same shape as that one. Part of it's going to be blocked. For today's exercises, we're keeping our bird flat, winged like this. In the next class, so if we play with these things and kind of get this is enough for messing with for 1 week. I'm just going to kind of show you where we're going to be going. We're going to be tilting the wings up so each wing is at an angle like this, and looking at how that then changes the foreshortening. Then what we're going to be doing is bending those wings so that each wing has this change in its angle at the wrist and can be up at a different angle. So if I just take my time and play with this, and I can learn these lessons about how that wing shape is going to deform, and I can learn the lesson about the leading edge of the wing not being at 90 degrees with the angle of the body when I tilt it, either going away from me or coming towards me. When it's coming straight towards me or I'm looking straight on the bottom, that's not a problem, right? But the minute it's coming towards me at an angle or going away from me at an angle, this axis will be different from that one. Those two things, that's plenty for 1 week. And then you will be positioned to turn the wings into a V, to rock them down, and ultimately to change the angle of the wingtips of these. And we'll be getting all sorts of other details on these. So there is more to come with this, but you'll find that if you just block in, if you just spend some time getting this part of this lesson, it is going to be so helpful when we start doing all these other things with our birds, and you're not going to feel overwhelmed. If you don't play with the little model, then when we kind of get to doing these sorts of things, it's going to feel like, oh my gosh, there's too many things going on. So take your time with this, block it in. You can absolutely do it. And we will see what we get. You're going to have 2 weeks to play with your bird model. And then we're going to meet again, and we're going to start deforming it again, and it's going to be fun. I hope this was a useful way of visualizing these angles on the birds. You can download the paper model on johnmuirlaws.com, either directly from the link in the description of the activity in my calendar, or you can also go to my store where I have a selection of the handouts from bunches of different classes. And this is the paper model that you can find there. So you can download the same thing from both of those sources. Take some time and play with it. And these sorts of initially kind of counterintuitive geometries, like the wing becomes super curvy when I foreshorten it. That's weird, right? But it will become intuitive to you just by messing with it. And then your brain's going to know what to expect. This is going to be fun. You can do it. And I hope you had fun. If it's possible to make a donation at johnmuirlaws.com, please do. If not, there's lots of ways to support me and the community and the whole planet by an act of stewardship, an act of kindness, something really awesome that you do that otherwise you might not do. Just as another way of connecting with the group, and want to encourage people to make that happen. I now want to jump over to our community view. We're going to make it possible for people to unmute themselves. And what we do is, this is a chance for people to share their journal pages. Any sketching that you've been doing, either if you want to show notes from this class or other journal pages that you've done, we're really excited to do that. There's going to be a number of people that want to share, and so we want to just be mindful of the other people who want to show something while we are, but also take the time the time that you need to share that. But just be aware that there are going to be other people in the community that would like to show. I'm going to start off with the camera turned on. If you don't want to be recorded, then all you have to do is wait till later on in this show. We're going to turn off the camera, and you can share things without that showing up on the eventual YouTube video. Right. If you don't want to also have your face shown on this, then you can turn off your camera at this time. But I love seeing your faces.
Happy birthday.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm going to start with Heidi.
Right. Okay.
So you're holding up a page at
I'm
Heidi, and then Sandra. Let's see what we've got. Here we go.
Yeah. So I got all the way to here, and we started like here, and I got all the way to here, and I'm going to keep going. Okay.
That is fantastic. That's fantastic. And this is exactly the level of detail that these sort of sketches and things should be made. You're not getting kind of fussy with it. You're blocking in kind of critical shapes and forms. This is going to be great. Yes, this is exactly what we want to do.
Great. Okay. Have fun, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Or I still will be there on that Thursday, but it will be through our Point Blue partner. So
Great.
I can see you there too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then let's check out. I am going to go to Sandra. Show us what is going on in your journal. Oh, we are working with botanicals here. Love to so get Ivea's thoughts and comments on this too. Spotlight, there we go.
So this is my spring sheet. I guess I've filled it, The Virginia bluebells are just starting to show flowers. And luckily, in my front yard, I have a flow of them. So I wanted to get used to the formation of the flower and its buds, which are kind of pink. And of course, then they turn blue. And I've got this little river of them, which is an amazing sight. But, and I think I'll actually start my journal. I've been fooling around with the latest edition is a pansy. It's hardly a native.
But isn't it fun to put that purple next to that yellow on the inside?
Yes, it is. I'm
It is
practicing.
so much fun.
I'm practicing. So the crabapple tree in my backyard is starting to bloom. And the spice bush it doesn't, those are the blooms. There's my little detail of it. And I'm pretty much confined to my property, actually pretty close to my house. So I'll be recording where I live.
That's great. That's a wonderful thing to do. And you'll be able to kind of then capture the changes through time in your journal.
Exactly.
Something that I really like that I see here is you're really letting these colors be saturated and vibrant. It's a lot of people who are starting watercolors, because people are taught to do this, start light and then work it darker in layers. A lot of people's watercolors all end up everything just super pale. And you're willing to kind of go in there with a more bold and vibrant colors, and it really gives these things a place on the page. That's really fun.
I think it's what I see.
Yes, no, it is what you see, exactly. But I'm just saying that for a lot of us, the technique which we start using in watercolor, it pushes people towards this sort of very ultra pale thing. And where you don't kind of get the full vibrancy of the colors that are in front of you. And I like the way that you're approaching it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I am now going to bump to Ray Bonto. Hi there. Good to see you.
Happy birthday, Jeff.
Happy birthday, Joe.
I appreciate that.
I always wondered when was your birthday, but I had a feeling for some reason it was on April.
Yes, I'm April 3rd.
Yep. Yeah, so I decided.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I decided to. It's a bit darker than usual because I used a fountain pen. I decided to take a break.
Great. Yeah, switching up your media and messing around with different media, very good idea. And I like the structure that I am seeing in these. Just, in some of those quick sketches where you see that that little wing model flying to the left, you kind of keep those structures in your brain, you're going to be able to carve these geometries. That's great.
Yeah, I also did a whole.
Yes, you did. Oh, this is exciting. This is really fun. So just a real analysis of all these different feather groups, and a very that side view with the real foreshortened bird. That's cool. You can really see the curves in the wings and how the bulges there in the secondary on that side view one, how the bulge in that secondary really pops out in a way that that you don't see when you look at it straight from below.
This one.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, that I did a long time ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
thinking of the marsh hawk or a harrier.
I decided to draw a woodcock, a Eurasian woodcock.
Oh, look at this. I really feel the planes on the body and the head. Yes, I can feel that structure. Right? So this drawing has volume to it. You are seeing and thinking about the three-dimensional structure as you draw this, and it really comes out. It's like we can rub our hand across the top of its head and we know where our hand would be turning angles. I can roll my hand around the rounded belly of this bird. Ah.
Thank you. Now, I also did some relativity pages.
Oh, you did. So you're sketchnoting relativity.
Exactly.
I've been looking forward to this. Let's see. There's a little bit of glare.
Switch off that light. Can you? Yeah, that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wrote speed of light equals to c. Now then time dilation and Lorentz contraction. So you see less of your length if you travel at the speed of light, and then time will slow down and stop if you travel at the speed of light. Now,
just trying to turn these concepts into visual images, such a great way to push your brain. That is really exciting.
yeah, so I wrote about time dilation, how he could travel like a long way away and come back on the Earth's future. Only that if you travel at and less than the speed of light, you can't travel back in time, but you can jump forward into the future.
That's right. Well, relative to people who are not traveling at that speed. Yes.
Now, watch out. What happens traveling back in time? What happens when you travel faster than light? So this is most important notes. Now, if you travel at light, now it's a bit annoying traveling at light speed, because even traveling across the solar system, it would take 3 years.
Right. That is one of my greatest annoyances about my space travel. I absolutely agree.
Yes, exactly. However, if you travel faster than light, you may create a shortcut. Which means so you can jump from one side of the Milky Way to the other.
And let's see the sketch notes on this. Let's see the how we're sketchnoting this.
So you can travel at different parts of the universe, and you can travel at different times of the universe. So you might make a take off at faster than light, and you can come back before you set off. Yeah, I will. Yeah, it's extremely strange. You could travel back in time. Only you can't travel before the universe started, because there's no time for you to do that.
That's a frustrating constraint.
Exactly.
This is so cool. I love to see you visualizing all of these concepts with your sketch notes.
I made a comic strip.
Oh.
So he takes off.
Yes.
Now there's a party, and then he takes off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take off. Then the signal from Earth says you are now traveling at 400,000 miles per second, faster than light. And then he reaches Andromeda, and he comes back. Now it crash lands because it's traveling so fast. I mean, not exactly because it's so fast, but because it's traveling at light speed, it crashes into the that thing which you launch it with.
Mm-hmm.
and and then that one friend says, "Hey, where did you come from?" And he says, "Oh, I set off on the 25th." And he says, "No, it's the 24th." Yeah, so you just travel back in time. There's even a poem. I think it's by Stephen Hawking. Yeah.
Oh, could you read it to us?
Yes, it's a limerick.
Yes.
There was once a young lady of white who travelled faster than light. She departed one day in a relative way and arrived on the previous night.
Bravo.
Yeah,
That's,
then I did
so I
some.
just want to interject for a second. I want to encourage everybody who's listening to this to see if there's a way that you can take anything that you are curious about and try sketchnoting about it. It will reveal to you in a remarkable way exactly the bounds of your understanding of something and show you where you want to dig in a little bit more, where it makes sense to you by putting it down, not just having it in your head, oh yeah, I read this, I think I understand it. But if you make sketch notes like Ray Bonto is doing here about whatever phenomenon you're trying to learn, you will be able to see exactly what you see, what you understand, and how you're thinking. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think black holes also do wormholes already. They make wormholes. I mean, wormholes don't exist if general relativity is completely correct.
I am now officially outside of my area of expertise. As a scientist, I'm delighted to say I have no idea when I have no idea. But this is so cool. This is great.
Like it slows time so much that someone would see you fall into the black hole in slow motion if you fell in, and you would just stand at as a statue as you reach when you reach the event horizon, and then you would turn redder and dimmer and then disappear.
Oh man, that's great.
Now for the Nature Journal pages.
Now for the Nature Journal.
So I went to some park where there's a river with lots of stuff, lots of ducks. So I saw a few Canada geese, and some mallards. I sketched this as it was resting. Its beak seemed to blend into it, the color under its wings.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll even take that beak and hide it completely under the feathers to keep it warm. Oh, and look at that beautiful gesture of the heron on there too. That one, yeah. Just you've drawn enough that there's an economy of line there. Just a few simple pencil strokes, and that thing really has the feeling and the gravity of a heron.
Yeah, it was a great blue heron, which is one of my favorite birds over there. Now, then I decided to sketch some Canada geese.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a portrait of it.
Yep.
And then I decided to sketch some more, and then an Egyptian goose came.
Ooh, this is a good day.
Yeah, and some more mallards, and also a moorhen, and lots of coots. And then so I sketched a female mallard, some more herons. I even saw a tufted duck.
Oh, that is such a cool animal.
Yeah.
I've been looking through my Collins guide of birds of Britain and Europe, and just sort of imagining the sorts of things that you'd be seeing and exploring as you're going about.
Well, I think I have that book too. Yeah, but then I sketched some more mallards, tufted ducks, Canada geese. Yeah, and then I came to a place where there was a red blue heron standing still, so I got a portrait of it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And one Canada goose on the river was moving its head like that, so I
Oh,
did
yeah.
this.
One bird, multiple heads in the sketches here. That really captures the motion. Oh, look at that. Boom, boom, boom. I also really like that quick just hatching approach you use for showing the lines. For showing the value and the volume there. Really fast, very, very clear. And I really like the way you spliced these three heads together to show movement. That's a very good way of describing movement.
And here's another coot. And then I came to another wilderness, and so I sketched a few tulips and magnolias and daffodils. I mean dandelions, not daffodils. And then, well, I was sketching another red blue heron that I saw, not over there. Yeah, I also sketched a little gray squirrel.
You really are getting a very intuitive understanding of the squirrel anatomy with your repeated squirrel sketches. You really, I often find squirrels rather challenging things to get, but you really are seeing, especially that line at the back. There's that cool angle that they have on their back, and you regularly capture that in your field sketches. I think it just comes from time with the animal and observing and observing. The more you do, the better those get.
I also today I also did this. Now I do birds in flight. Yes, I do draw birds in flight.
Yeah.
Like that. Pigeons and crows sometimes. And this was another pigeon coming towards me. This was another pigeon going this way.
And you already have really kind of understand and learned about the different angles you get in the tail. I'm seeing that effectively done in a bunch of these little sketches. Rather than putting it as a symmetrical thing, a little bit of an angle changes the angle of the negative spaces you see on either side of the tail. And I'm seeing that in these sketches. Well done, well observed.
Yeah, this one was sitting, so I just resting, so I did a portrait of that.
Yep.
And
multiple head positions too. I like that.
Anything else to show?
no. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Wow, this was a really a banner day. Getting to see your sketchnoting and your studies of relativity, your ability to start your ability to think on paper will just get better and better the more of those that you do. I recommend the book, The Sketchnote Handbook by Mike Rohde. It's an excellent manual on sketchnoting. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely. Now, let me see. I've got a couple more journal pages here to share. Let's go to, I'm going to try to do this in order. I'm trying to remember what I can say. LK, then we're going to jump to Lindsay, and then Anne. LK, good to see you again. I'm going to spotlight you.
Okay, so here's what I drew during the class.
You got all the lessons, very precise notes. Good labeled drawings.
And then here's what I did in the last few days. This is just from the last class of the week.
Really, I'm look at the geometry that is just embedded in these sketches. That's really cool to see.
And then,
Did you make yourself a little leaf model?
huh? Oh yeah.
Great. Great.
And then today I did this.
Oh, I love chickadees. I love chickadees. Warm gray. Yep, that's a good description for it. The warm gray. I'm seeing sound descriptions here. And look at how LK is putting in, look at all the thinking on this page. Look at how she's kind of zooming in and zooming out. She's looking at the berries that they're going after. She's even got a cross section of that in it. So an analysis of the things that they're eating and taking, a description of the song. Then on the drawings of the bird, front, side, back, all these different angles. You think of how many ways can you see a chickadee? This is a great example of that. So this is really cool to see. This is really cool to see. Yep, it's interesting. So she's noticing, so she's got a question about, LK has a question. She's wondering about if these chickadees like the berries, and she's answering this through her own direct observations and noticing when they have a choice, what they're taking. Are those berries in the same food tray with them?
No, I just drew the berries. I was just asking if chickadees like berries, what kind?
I wonder if it'd be cool to put berries in the food tray as another option, and then see when the chickadees are up there if they're ignoring them.
Good idea.
That would be a fun little experiment. Because like some person might say, well, yeah, the reason they're taking the berries is because they're more, I mean, the seeds is because they're just more accessible to them up there in the food tray. But if the berries were equally accessible to them there, would they still be taking the seeds? That's something that you could answer through your own direct observations. That journal page that you showed just demonstrates so many interesting ways of looking at the same phenomenon and thinking about it. That's really exciting to see. You're thinking like a naturalist, LK. You're thinking like a scientist, like a naturalist. That's really cool to see. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we're going to jump over to Lindsay.
All right. So we also, LK and I both did chickadees at the same time. So I was out, it was like a kind of an early spring, but still cold. So I wrapped up in a blanket and brought my violets outside. So I started to do my violets and I almost got taken out by mating chickadees. And so I really didn't see them. It was like a black and white fluff ball going by. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I didn't really see it. I came back inside and did this drawing from a bird book. So that's funny that LK and I both did that. Most recently, though, I have been here in Maine. We have, and I guess anywhere where there's vernal pools, we have a lot of frogs and amphibians crossing the roads right now. And so in Maine, there's a guy that graduated from Unity College that runs this thing of like, go out and count how many species cross the road, how many dead, how many alive, how many injured. And so I actually got there way too fast in one night. In just like 15 minutes or so that we surveyed one area, we saw like 18 or so, and we just hop them across the road. We kind of grab them and help them to their vernal pool for mating grounds. So this was also done from pictures, and I was just like flabbergasted. I had no idea that that back toe was so long, and then he had like a crooked, like little crooked toe up in the front, and I was like, was it broken? Was it okay? So yeah, and then another just close up of their face. I was just kind of amazed by all the details of the frog there. So it's a wood frog. I didn't know that there was so many different types of frogs that were crossing the road. A lot of spring peepers, and I didn't realize how tiny spring peepers were until I actually found one, and I was like, "You make that noise? You're so loud." Yeah. So, and then today, from the lesson today, I'm really excited to go out. I do a lot of canoe camping in the summer. I'm a teacher, so in the summertime, I am out and about, and we were camping. We didn't realize it, but underneath an eagle's nest last summer. And one of the eagles, they were fledglings, ready to fly. One of the eagles had actually pushed the other eagle out of the nest, and it passed away, like it broke its neck on the way down. So we had to call the state biologist, like, hey, we've got a baby dead eagle. But we barely knew that it was an eagle because of the plumage. It was just this black bird on the ground, but it had the claws of an eagle. So I was like, I think that's an eagle. And then we looked for the parents and we saw them. But from underneath, looking at this, we see a lot of eagles just kind of sitting in a tree, but when we're canoe camping, we see a lot of eagles fly over this, and looking at the different colors underneath, we were like, oh, that one's like 2 years old. Oh, that one's 3 years old, with the different colors. And just based off of how much white or dark under the wings, and then the head is kind of the last thing. The head and the tail, I think, is the last thing to turn all the way white. And I think it's 5 years when they're mature and ready to mate. So we just learned so much, and I'm excited to play around with the different angles of this.
I'm glad you're going to do that. Then we're gonna just go nuts on that model. So this week we're gonna get just sort of the fundamentals of it, and then you'll be ready for the tweak and the tweak and the tweak.
For the tweak like this.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Hey, that's really cool. Thank you for being
here. And happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's jump over to Ann Chadwick.
Hello, what a fun class. And I got to say, yesterday I went out to the coast, the Sonoma coast, and I saw these wild irises in bloom. There were clumps of them. And at first I went, uh-oh, how am I going to do that? But then I thought, no, we know how to break that down now. So I wasn't quite as intimidated. So that's the iris and a poppy.
And curls. I really feel the curling and the wrapping on those petals.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun now that I knew what to look at, and to kind of go into that throat kind of there. And then kind of a landscapito. And then these are sketch notes from a class that Paul Hardy, who you probably know, he did last night for the Feather River Land Trust. And I highly recommend it. It was about the birds of Sierra Valley and Lake Almanor. And so a lot of it, he went really fast. So a lot of it was just listing, but he had incredible photos. And like this, I know I'll remember this now because I sketchnoted it and wrote down the difference between the markings on these two kinds of grebes.
Yeah.
But you can look up on featherriverlandtrust.org. They're going to post the talk by Paula Hardy about those birds. And I'm going to go back and sketchnote it in more detail, where I can hit pause a few times.
And the place you mentioned, Sierra Valley, is such a special location. It is we call it the Serengeti of the Sierra Nevada. You go there this summer, and you'll just be bowled over by the abundance and diversity of wildlife all around you. It's just.
And he talks in the talk. He puts up some maps and shows the easy ways to get to this bridge and that water feature.
Oh, yeah, you got to go to the steel bridge. You
got to go to the steel bridge. Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So, and then look what happened to my page today. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's a party in the back. That's so fun.
Yeah. But also yesterday I was seeing northern harriers out in the field. And so I was trying to capture how they were swooping at the different angles.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun. And I got some video of it too, really quickly. And then Jack, maybe we can talk later, but I think we're just next week, we were going to piggyback on your Zoom platform.
Oh, okay.
Rather than have our own. So it'll be the same bat time, same bat channel, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
If that works for you.
That works perfectly well for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd love to have people register with Point Blue for next week, but you don't really have to. You can just jump on if we can use your platform just like normal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. But we'll talk.
We'll talk. I'm really looking forward to seeing you and the biologists there. That'll be fun.
Yeah, super excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Let's see. If anybody else would like to share something from your journals, just hold it up to the screen. Marie. And then Jen. So first Marie, then we'll pop down to Jen. Marie, thank you so much for being with us. Hi there.
Hi. This is my first time. And before I show anything, I just have to tell you that I took the sketchbook revival course and listened to you on there. And I think I wrote down probably every word you said.
Mm.
Because like, you're my hero. I have been a wildlife artist for all my life and do that for money and stuff. And most every art I've done, I do for money. So I've had this real hard transition between that and being retired and knowing how to just enjoy drawing and just enjoy doing it for myself. And my friends, my artist friends, they have sketchbooks. I'm like, well, I've never been a doodler or a sketcher. I always do it seriously because I do it for money. And I don't like that thinking anymore, but I have not been able to figure out how to do anything with a sketchbook because I feel like it has to be something serious and I can't write in it because it doesn't, then it's not pretty, you know? So when I heard you talk about how to use a nature journal, just those two words are exciting to me because I'm a naturalist. I love being outdoors. I love everything with nature and I observe everything and I try to keep it all in my head because I have no way of putting it down on paper in the way that I used to think.
Yes. Yes.
But now your terminology of brain on paper like totally makes sense and gives me permission to just have a sketchbook. And I have several now that I have figured out yesterday that I can use and just put down, like if I'm wanting, we have wild turkeys in our yard and I've been watching them grow for a year. And had I had my sketchbook, I could have been putting illustrations of them and notes about what they do and when they do it and all that kind of stuff. And that's just like one tiny example. And now I'm like so excited because I can finally have a way of documenting this and writing it and getting it out of my head and referring to it and seeing it when I look at it and know what to do with it. If I want to develop a serious painting from it or not, it doesn't really matter anymore. And this all happened like 2 days ago and I'm like geeked. So thank you for participating in that sketchbook revival because that you were the answer to what I was searching for. And they saved the best till last. You were the last one.
Thank you so much. I know that really means a lot to me and it really helps motivate me that this work is something that we need at this time. And thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. And to show you the notes that I took today, I don't know if you can see, this is my first page of notes.
Yeah.
And my second page of notes.
Yes, yes.
And my third page of notes. Well, as you were turning that.
Motto, a run for his money with filling up all these pages. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both of you make lots of, the more that you, so folks notice just, so Marie is anything that she wants to stick into her brain, she's putting it down on paper.
Yeah, finally.
Google diagrams, words, no filtering, just getting it down. That's great.
Yep, and I was doing it fast so that I could try to capture everything you were saying. And I originally thought, okay, he'll be the first pages in my notebook because that would be appropriate, but I don't know how to go about doing that yet because I haven't done it yet. So I just did it on regular paper, and whether this gets transferred over or not, it doesn't really matter because I got it down. So
That's wonderful. Thank you.
yes,
Thank you. It's really fun to meet you.
Happy birthday.
I appreciate that. So now I'm going to jump over to gallery view again. Let's see, Jen. I see Jen, and then I'm going to jump over to Leslie. And Jen, hi there.
Hey, I just finally got a chance to, our Eastern bluebirds are in our box. And so I got a chance to try the masking fluid nest situation. Like we talked about in a class a couple months ago, and it was so fun. To get some lighter strands going was really, really exciting. So
I mean, that's got so much texture to it. Love it.
Yeah, so it felt a little too spaghetti-ish.
Sort of quickly describe the technique that you used for people who
yeah, well, that class was great. And then I had tried masking fluid in the past, but not with this block that you showed. And even in that class, I didn't have the block, and I was trying to do masking fluid and scratch it off with my fingernails, which just it does not work. So this little rubber remover has, so yeah, so I just sketched it out, and then I, before I did anything else, did some spaghettis with this masking fluid pen, and then painted in the rest of it, and then erased it, and then just went in with a light. And then I tried adding darks, and that's the next thing I want to work on is, like you said, pushing the darks more to get more depth, and that's hard for me, but I need to do that, I think.
Oh, that's got so much texture to it. That's really fun, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Now I am going to jump over to Leslie. Good to have you with us. Hey there.
I can hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Well, happy birthday coming up, friend.
Thank you.
Couple, and thank you, by the way, for doing the workshop. I have been kind of geeking out on twigs in my yard, trees and bushes in my yard. So trying to capture what I'm seeing as they are transitioning from buds to actual leaves.
Isn't this an exciting time of year for all this? There's so much change happening in those right now.
Yes. And it happens so quickly. And a lot of the times I will bring a sample in the house for me to eventually get to, or just kind of watch on my desk. And I think bringing it in, it's still a little bit cool around here, but bringing it in into the warmer temperature of my house, it seems that they start budding a lot quicker. So that's been interesting to observe.
Yeah, anybody who thinks the plants don't move has never drawn one.
Yes, I know.
Oh, could you hold that a little bit closer to the screen so we can get a little bit of a closer look at it? Oh, yeah. Look at the close-up. Look at that zoom in there. A great way to do it. I love this, also this connection of the way you are, a couple things I want to point out to folks while looking at this. So one is, notice how Leslie's got this zoom in to show the details of that one little piece, then you understand that same structure throughout the drawing. Really intentional integration of written notes connecting into those sketches by those little locator arrows, because there's some sorts of details that are harder to show in your sketch. And also, just from a graphic design standpoint, notice the drawing at the bottom. There are some parts of the drawing that are sort of worked out and shaded and colored, and others are just left as a line drawing. visually, that makes for really dynamic, interesting pages. When there's part left undone on a drawing, the person's brain will start to fill in like, oh, what would I do next on that? And they'll look through your approach. So it makes for just a really dynamic, exciting page. So I want to encourage people to try this trick that Leslie is doing of also leaving part of those drawings undone.
Thank you. Still working on it. And then today, my notes. And it's funny that we did this workshop today because I was telling some of the gals in Pencil Miles that last week I was attacked by a hawk in one of our local parks where I run, and a nesting hawk. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of species. I think it might be a red-shouldered hawk, but not sure. But anyways, so it was just fun today to be able to look at some of these details of the raptors, and so that I can be, because I've been observing. I haven't really tried sketching in my journal, but anyways, this is anyways some more another tool to have in my kit to be able to do that. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing these, Leslie.
Thank you, Jack.
There's some really dynamic pages we're seeing in this share session today. Looking at pages like we're seeing in Leslie's work here, it just gives you lots of ideas like, oh, I want to try that. I want to try that. You know, just try, you know, what happens when you let the viewer do part of the work. Let's jump over to Mary. Hi, Mary. Oh, we've got the woodcock.
He's not done. I just want to wish you a happy birthday and tell you that we are fellow Aries and my birthday's April 2nd. So we're twins.
Mary, happy birthday to you.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great time of year for a birthday, and I've got 2 grandchildren that are Aries also. So we're in fine fettle here. Anyway, woodcocks are just about my favorite little creatures in the whole world. So I'm working on my woodcock from last week.
Aren't the timber doodles fun?
They're the best.
They're
so
just
cute.
So cute. The
So
bill
cute.
is ridiculous. And
yeah.
And that eye placement, there's just nothing like them. That's really fun.
Exactly.
Can we see your
Anyway,
timber
happy
again?
birthday. And Aries rule, right, Jack?
Well, they certainly think that they do. However,
yes, well,
maybe of other or maybe Aries collaborate.
Maybe. I don't know. I've got a grandson. I don't know.
Maybe not. So, Mary, can you hold that timber doodle up again?
I don't know. I'm not getting very good. I don't know if it's my light here.
A little bit fuzzy.
Are you getting? Yeah, I think I don't have. It's a kind of a cloudy day here, so I'm not getting very good light on them.
But isn't it fun when you get to put in those darks on them, the little dark patterns?
Yeah, the dark, and yeah, he's very unfinished, but you know. And I've got some leaf litter I'm going to put in down here, just a little bit. That's what I like about the brown paper. You can leave a lot of things undone.
Yes.
And it looks okay. Yeah.
You want to leave part of your paper as just the color of the paper itself. Use that as
it's great. It's the best.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Okay, no problem. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you too. Be your birthday sooner.
I'm on Good Friday. Can you beat that one?
All right. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here. I'm about to turn off our recording. but really appreciate everybody's participation, being willing to open up your journals to the community and see what is happening on those pages. A lot of sources for inspiration that we have together.